A quick video about the next version of the oval chuck, which has got lots of upgrades over the first version. First thing I've done is I've added a spacer plate. It's 11mm, and onto the clamp. Now this clamp is very specific to your lathe, obviously, mine being a 10x18 mini lathe, and the reason for bringing it forward is to get it past that nut on the spindle, and it's very lathe specific, so most people probably won't have to do that. But the purpose of whatever you end up doing for this is to have two holes or pins for a sliding cam, and I went with holes. So then you've got your sliding cam. The bearings worked out really good, and there's a little retaining plate to retain them. I used MDF as the back of this, which was a mistake. I should have used plyboard, I guess, in retrospect, and this is all retrospect anyway. And this was the reason for pushing it past the nut, is that big slot there. You can see I've had to grind away these nuts. It's not very, there's not much space in there. So in the next version, because I'll be using 100mm bearing, which is only 2.5, it pushes these out 2.5mm, but the slot is a lot smaller, so these will be fine. You know, they'll be there won't be any collisions between things, and there'll be more strength and space. So I'll fit that, and I've got that with coach bolts going into a slot through the hole when you find it, and then on the back just a washer and a nut. I'll tighten up the clamp in a minute. Make sure that's square in your slot, you know, the square of the coach bolt. If that's the way you see, you could have a stud fitted into the thing and put your nut on the front if you want. But this is all, you know, neither here nor there. All you're doing is having a sliding cam that can slide to on centre or off centre as far as you dare, and the size of your lathe. So I only go an inch off centre because I've designed this around the maximum size of 150mm major axis on the oval, and what is it, 2/3 of that 100mm, so 6 inch by 4 inch, 100mm minor axis, 150mm major axis. So I'm going to set that to where I think my 0 is, and we'll have a method of zeroing all of this, which you'll see in a minute. And I've got a rough mark on there where my 0 is. That's the 0 that way, not 0 up and down, because you have to zero it in both directions, your major and minor axis. We'll get to that in a minute. Next up is the sliding dovetail, and the how I've done that is I got a soft MT2 arbor, drilled and tapped it at M10, and then made a little disc, metal 5mm thick disc. On the lathe also, the centre dovetail slider drive, I turned a hole so that disc fits in it, and there's 3 M6 screws coming into like a little face plate on the front of that soft arbor, if you like. so that I know that, and I turn that on the lathe so that I know that it runs true to the spindle, so that makes it easier to centre everything. Another thing I added is this plate in the middle, 6mm ply, and the reason for that is so that this part here and the slider, so the pushers on the bearing, pushers, and the slider can be independently adjusted, even though they share. They're everything's bolted through there with M8 bolts, you know, cap head bolts, which are counterbored into the front slider, the dovetails, the outer dovetails. But by loosening those, you can clamp these in and you can clamp those in. Of course, it has to be parallel, everything has to be parallel when you do that, and it took me a while scraping this in with a razor blade so that it runs without any slop whatsoever. And that's just attached with three, the dovetail to this, 3 countersunk screws which are ground flat to that plate, so that I know that this runs true, at least as far as that goes. Now another thing I did to attach the face plate, you can see these little slots, hopefully. I should have this so I can see if I, yeah, there's like a little slot in here with a nut dropped in, a square nut, and then an M6 countersunk to screw those 4 of them, and that attaches the face plates, which there'll be a variety of. So that now should go into the spindle, and you've got to slide it to get it onto your bearing. There we go, till it goes over the bearing, and see the bearings turning as I turn that, so it's tight on the bearing. And then the last piece is your drawbar, so nothing's coming off, because to come off it's got to either take out 4, well, if the faceplate could come away with 4 M6s, the whole thing can't come away really, you know. But to pull this off, it'd be taking out 4 M8 bolts, which I don't think is going to happen. Or for the spindle part, it's 3 M6s. That's the weakest part of this chuck, I guess, but it's stronger than wood screws, which we know from David Springett's video works.